Elizabeth Montgomery. Popular for her role as the witch, Samantha Stephens, who could get anything she wanted by just twitching her nose. Elizabeth had an incredibly successful career, but her personal life, I'm afraid, was not very enchanting. In this video, we will be talking about facts about Elizabeth that you'd probably not hear anywhere else. Just stick to the end to find out. Who is Elizabeth Montgomery? Born on April 15th, 1993 in Los Angeles, California in the United States, Elizabeth had a grand entrance into the film industry. Her parents, Robert Montgomery and Elizabeth Daniel, were film stars, and in 1951 she made her television debut in her father's show and made her film debut 4 years later in the film The Court Martial of Billy Mitchell. Her biggest movie success was playing a witch who tries to live as a regular housewife in the film Bewitched. Bewitched launched Elizabeth to superstardom, as it was widely received by both critics and the general public. As a witch, Elizabeth could have anything she wanted. As powerful as she was, couldn't cast the spell of a rosy life. Here are some facts that you might not remember about Elizabeth. Robert Montgomery was jealous of his daughter's fame and success. Elizabeth's parents divorced when she was a teenager, and she stayed with her father, Robert, who at the time was very successful in his career as an actor. He grew jealous of his daughter's success because she took the spotlight from him. Elizabeth's success was very intimidating to him, so he resorted to criticizing her works at any chance he got. This made Elizabeth very unhappy that the very man who paved the way for her into the industry was now very jealous of her success. In a bid to get more father and daughter bonding time, Elizabeth offered Robert a role to play as Samantha's father in Bewitched, but he turned down the offer. In Robert's defense, he never wanted Elizabeth to be an actress, which, quite frankly, I find very amusing, as he was the only one who introduced her to the movie industry. Many people argued that the strife existed because Elizabeth never truly forgave her father for divorcing her mum, and she carried this grudge on for the rest of her life. She was married 4 times. Her near-toxic relationship with her father might have affected her relationships, as she was married 4 times. Elizabeth was affectionately drawn to older men who did not treat her so well. She was in her 3rd marriage when she appeared in the show Bewitched. Elizabeth was first married to Frederick Kaman in 1954, but they only stayed together for a year. She separated from Kaman because he wanted her to quit acting and become a full-time stay-at-home wife. Then she got into an abusive marriage with Gig Young. Although she never talks about it, Young is said to have severe mental issues. Elizabeth was lucky to escape this marriage. In 1978, Young shot his 2nd wife to death and then took his own life. After his death, Elizabeth got married again to the famed producer, Asher. Asher and Elizabeth worked on Bewitched together, and Asher had multiple romances throughout their time on the show. However, Elizabeth was not faithful too. She was also having an affair with the director of the show, Richard Michaels. In the end, Bill Asher cried his heart out when they separated. He said, "It was all my fault." Her last marriage was with former Falcon Crest star Robert Fox, who was surprisingly 9 years younger than she was. A weird fact, you know, considering her long history of being drawn to older men. These men had a lot of troubles, and she had hoped to rescue them from their demons, but sadly, that didn't go so well for her. She has 3 kids with her husband Asher, Rebecca, Robert and Williams. Rebecca is an editor with credits for successful projects like Anchorman, Knocked Up and Donnie Darko to her name. Robert is a producer, director and screenwriter, while Williams is a screenwriter and production manager and has handled big projects like E! True Hollywood Story and many more. High passion for activism. Throughout her entire life, Elizabeth was a firm believer in women's rights and did all she could to protect these rights. She sees herself as a liberal and frequently dedicates her time, money and energy to a lot of charitable and political causes. She believed in women's protection against discrimination, homosexuality rights, and HIV/AIDS research and outreach to rural communities. Elizabeth criticised the Vietnam War and narrated 2 political documentaries about the United States foreign policies. She was also a volunteer for the Los Angeles unit of Learning Aid, a charity organisation that records educational books on CDs and in downloadable formats to help disabled people. She believes in planting magic in people's hearts anywhere she goes. The name Samantha. The name Samantha was not very popular before the 60s, but after it was used for Elizabeth's character in Bewitched, it grew very popular in America, and has ranked in the top 100 names since 1976. Elizabeth's influence on Bewitched cannot be denied. There's a huge chance that if your name is Samantha, Elizabeth Montgomery, inspired that. She took a break from Hollywood. After 8 seasons of Bewitched, Elizabeth got bored and decided to take a break from acting for a while. She made a few appearances in Japanese commercials for chocolate biscuits and cookies by the company Lotte Corp later on. They paid well, and she enjoyed every moment she spent with her Japanese fans. In the later years of her career, she took on roles that took her as far as possible from the lovely Samantha everyone adored. She starred in the 1985 television movie Amos, where she played the villain role of a nurse who abuses her wards in a home for old people. Elizabeth made a final return to Broadway 4 years later for the production of Love Letters. Her last television work was providing voice work for the Batman animated series. Pandora's Box. What many people might not know is that in Bewitched, Elizabeth did not only play the role of Samantha. If you look really closely at Samantha's cousin, Serena, you'll notice a striking resemblance. This is because they were played by the same person, Elizabeth. Serena wore a black wig to conceal this from the audience. In the show's credit, Serena was credited as Pandora's Box. This just highlights the prowess of Elizabeth's acting skills, as she was able to play 2 opposing characters perfectly. She almost starred in a Hitchcock movie. During her early career years, Elizabeth was featured in many live series shows, including Twilight Zone, 11th Hour, and Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Hitchcock was charmed instantly by Elizabeth's acting skills, and he asked her to star in his movie, Marnie, but unfortunately, as excited as Elizabeth was to work with Hitchcock, she just couldn't. She had a lot of other commitments, so she politely declined, and the role was eventually taken by Diana Baker. Did she make the right choice? She was confused initially, but when Bewitched rose to become the highest rated series for the ABC network, she was glad she didn't accept Hitchcock's offer. It is reported that she earns $1 million per season in the American fantasy sitcom. Her death. Elizabeth's last marriage was with Robert Fox, and they'd been together 20 years before they got married. Not long after they got married, Elizabeth was diagnosed with colon cancer, which she had struggled with for many years. In 1995, she started experiencing symptoms, but she didn't have the time to go for a full diagnosis, as she was working on the deadline for Murder. By the time she was diagnosed, the cancer had gotten to her liver, and the doctors could not do much for her. Seeing that there was no hope for recovery, Elizabeth requested to be carried home to Beverly Hills, which she shared with Robert, and she did not want to die in a hospital bed. She died 6 weeks after she was diagnosed, and 18 months after her last marriage. Quite contrary to what many believed, she died at 62 with an estimated net worth of $20 million. Now in Salem, Massachusetts, there is a statue that pays tribute to Elizabeth Montgomery in the filming of the 7th season in the city. It has been there since June 2006. Now it's your turn. Do you have any fond memories of Bewitched? Which of these rare facts about Elizabeth Montgomery surprised you the most? Let us know in the comment section. And while you're at it, please give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I'd be really honoured if you would subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. As always, thanks for watching.